where has all the volatility gone? So if we look at CAISO, I'm old enough to remember when everyone was worried about the duck curve, right? So, people were looking at what happens if we get more and more solar and this belly comes down deeper and deeper, but the head stays where it is, and we have this massive ramp, and this ramp is going to be a big problem. How are we going to maintain enough capacity to deal with this ramp? So we've definitely seen the duck get duckier, but what we've seen with price volatility actually is that it's been falling off a cliff. So these orange dots are CAISO, and it was climbing for a little while, and then it just started falling after around 2017. This metric that we're using here is RTB 120, also known as RTTB2. Basically, it's looking at the real-time price signal and looking at the top 24 5-minute prices and the bottom 24 5-minute prices, not necessarily in a contiguous hour, but it's 2 hours worth of 5-minute prices, and looking at the daily spread and adding that up over the course of a year. And what we've seen is that that's really declined. And so then you have to ask why. Why has volatility been disappearing even as these net load ramps have gotten more and more extreme? So let's dive into that. If I just look at the month of March, I could do the same thing for April or May, but kind of peak duck season. March 2018, we see a lot of volatility. 2019, we see a lot of volatility. 2020, I could show, it doesn't really tell you much because it was also a very weird year. This beginning of the pandemic. But if we look in 2021, almost all that volatility disappeared. And if we look in 2022, again, almost all that volatility is gone. And so what I'm terming now is what I call the chainsaw curve. So rather than a duck, what we see is kind of a leveled off peak price that's pretty flat, and then as the solar comes online, it drops to close to zero and stays at zero basically all day, and then it comes back up. And so it's really just kind of a squared off curve that really looks like a chainsaw. And so that's the curve that we see in CAISO now, is the chainsaw curve. And I'll show on the next slide that this has been spreading kind of through bigger parts of the year. What's also interesting, though, is that as this volatility has been disappearing, we've actually seen the day-ahead real-time spreads get bigger during sunrise and sunset, which is kind of an interesting phenomenon, that you would see less volatility, but a bigger spread to the day-ahead market. And what that really indicates is that there's a systematic over-procurement in the day ahead, because that over-procurement in the day ahead leads to these elevated prices around sunrise and sunset. But then as we get into the real time, we are generally coming in at lower prices with extra supply. And so that's a very strong indication that we have kind of a systematic over-procurement going on. And this phenomenon is really spreading. So this is just this year, 2022, January, you see kind of this chainsaw curve coming in quite a bit, probably 20 out of 30 days in January. February, it was almost every day. March, it's been pretty much every day. And if you go back a little bit further, it was almost every day in October and November as well. December was really the only winter month that didn't look like this. And even then, December probably showed up half the days. And so what that means is that the kind of curtailment season, duck curve season, has been spreading from what you usually think of as like shoulder seasons deeper and deeper into the winter, and it's going to spread later and later into the summer. If we look at curtailment this year to date, you can see that it's been very high in 2022. And again, these are all kind of indications that we've got some over procurement and curtailment on the flip side during the day.